اهدنا لما اختلف فيه من الحق بإذنك إنك تهدي من تشاء إلى صراط مستقيم. As always, inshallah, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His aid, for His blessings in whatever we do related to this deen and related to the dunya. And we seek His blessings and we ask Him to send His salutations and peace upon His noble Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll be continuing our lesson on the book As-Sayr ila-Allahi wa-Dar al-Akhirah by Ibrahim as-Sa'di, and we're up until the last 4 or 5 baits, the last 4 or 5 lines. And inshallah ta'ala, we're going to start by reading.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده. قال الشيخ رحمه الله: عبدوا الإله على اعتقاد حضوره فتبرؤوا في منزل الإحسان.
عبدوا الإله على اعتقاد حضوره فتبرؤوا في منزل الإحسان. So this is line number 12, and we've mentioned before that this book, it's a manzuma akhlaqiyya. It's poetry on akhlaq and adab. It talks about manners, it talks about softening the heart, and he mentions up to 18 different stations. 18 different stations that the believer and the righteous person, the righteous slave, should attain or should aspire to be. So over here he says, Abadul ilaha, they worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Al-ilah is a God, and ilah is one of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alright? Ala i'tiqadi hudurihi, whilst believing firmly in His presence. فَتَبَرَّؤُوا فِي مَنْزِلِ الْإِحْسَانِ. So they worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as though they see Him. For though they cannot see Him, yet He subhanahu wa ta'ala sees us. And this is what ihsan is. This is what ihsan is. The station of ihsan is the next station. And ihsan is the highest station that a mu'min or a believer can be. You have a Muslim, and then you have a mu'min, and then you have a muhsin. And a muhsin is a person that is up there, the pinnacle. And it's always hard to stay in the pinnacle. All right? You're always going to come down. All right? And this is what iman is. Iman, it drops, it rises, and it drops. All right? It increases and it decreases. Al-iman, all right, هو قول باللسان واعتقاد بالقلب وله عمل وأركان يزيد بالطاعة وينقص بالعصيان. Iman is speech, La ilaha illallah, right? And then it settles in the heart, you believe in it. And then it has 6 pillars, and then it has actions, all right? Your speech and your heart, your actions show. You pray 5 times a day, you do the wajibat, you do the mandatory acts, right? And it also increases through obedience, by doing good deeds, by praying, by saying good speech, by having khushu'. This increases the iman. And then it decreases through disobedience. Every time you disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your iman decreases. طيب. So over here he says, فَتَبَرَّؤُوا فِي مَنْزِلِ الْإِحْسَانِ. So they try and they exonerate themselves by attaining the station of al-ihsan, which is the highest station. طيب, next line.
نسحوا الخليقة في رضا محبوبهم بالعلم والإرشاد والإحسان.
He then says, نصحوا الخليقة في رضا محبوبهم بالعلم والإرشاد والإحسان. They give sincere advice to the creation. Al-Khaliqah, anyone who's living, right? Be it Muslim or non-Muslim. This is the next station. They give da'wah. They learn bil-ilm, they take knowledge, wal-irshad, and guidance. Whatever they learn, they act upon it, and then they preach it. Wal-ihsan, all right? They preach it through righteousness. This is the next stage, and this is what a Muslim, this is what Islam is about. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. We've elaborated on this last week. Allah Azza wa Jalla swears by the importance of time, And Allah Azza wa Jal does not swear by something except that it shows its importance. إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ. All mankind is at loss. All of mankind is lost. We are lost creatures. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. With the exception of those that have full iman in believing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger. وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. And they also do righteous deeds as well. So they believe and they do righteous deeds simultaneously. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ. And they abide and they instruct and they advise each other upon the truth, which is Islam. They're giving da'wah. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. And they advise and instruct each other upon as-sabr. And we've spoken about as-sabr last time. Naam. The next line.
سحروا الخلائق بالجسوم وإنما أرواحهم في منزل فوقاني.
In this next line, the author rahimahullah says, they accompanied al-khalaiq, the creation, with their bodies, whilst their souls were yearning for the higher station. Right? وَأَرْوَاحُهُمْ فِي مَنْزِلِ فَوْقَانِ. They accompany the creation. And they also, their souls were yearning for the higher station. So that this line and the next line goes together. Let's read the next line.
بالله دعوات الخلائق كلها خوفا على الإيمان من نقصان.
Naam. Verily, he says, بالله دعوات الخلائق كلها. Verily, it is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with His aid that I call the creation and gatherings of people, all of them to Allah, out of fear of the decrease of Iman. بالله دعوات الخلائق كلها خوفا على الإيمان من نقصان. So over here, it's telling us that, again, giving da'wah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the believers, arwah, ruh, which is the soul of a believer and another believer is connected. Al-arwahu junudun mujannada. As the Messenger says that the hearts, they yearn for each other. Their hearts, they are like junud, troops, right? And the souls. When a good soul sees another soul, right? You want to see someone, a friend or someone that you know, and that person reminds you of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just by looking at them, just by speaking to them, but just by interacting. Alright, صاحب الخلائق صاحب الخلائق بالجسوم وإنما أرواحهم في منزل فوقاني. بالله دعوات الخلائق كلها خوفا على الإيمان من النقصان. Alright, at the same time, they fear the decrease of the iman. They fear the decrease of the iman, which brings us to the next station. Station number 16.
عزف القلوب على الشواغل كلها
عن الشواغل
عن الشواغل كلها قد فرغوها من سوى الرحمن.
نعم. Again, in the line number 16, the station of the heart. They turn their hearts away from all that preoccupies them without something that preoccupies you other than Allah. Right? They have emptied themselves from what is in their heart besides Ar-Rahman, besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then we come to the important concept of the heart. The concept of the heart. So the heart is mentioned throughout the Quran and in the Sunnah in many, many verses. In the Sunnah, the Messenger ﷺ says, ألا وإن في الجسد مضغة إذا صلحت صلح الجسد كله وإذا فسدت فسد الجسد كله ألا وهي القلب. At the heart, there's a body, there's a flesh in the heart that if it is corrupted, then the whole body is corrupted. And if it is corrected, then the whole body is corrected. And this flesh is the heart. So this is where it starts. If your heart is diseased, if your heart is sickened, if your heart is blackened, if your heart is hardened, then you strive to fix your heart first. And how do you fix your heart? All right, by softening your heart. And how do you soften your heart? By doing things that soften the heart. Visiting the graves, remembering the akhirah. Remembering the akhirah is something that softens the heart. Patting the head of an orphan. If you see an orphan, all right, this again softens the heart. Looking at the poor people, looking at someone who is below you, right, and thinking about their state and assisting them, this again softens the heart. All right, there are many ways that we can soften the heart. But the heart is the beginning. وَمَا سُمِّيَ الْقَلْبُ قَلْبًا إِلَّا لِتَقَلُّبِهِ. The heart was not named the heart except that it flips, it changes. فَاحْذَرْ عَلَى الْقَلْبِ مِنْ قَلْبٍ وَتَقْلِيبٍ. The poet, he says, the heart was not called the heart except that it flips and it changes. All right, so beware of the heart of it flipping and changing. Beware of the heart of it flipping and changing, because the heart is in between the two fingers of Ar-Rahman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in a manner that befits Him, His majesty. He flips them in the manner that He wishes. That's why the Prophet ﷺ used to increase in saying, Ya muqallib al-qulub, thabbit qalbi ala dinik. Allahumma ya musarrif al-qulub, sarrif qalbi ala ta'atik. Oh Allah, the turner of the hearts, turn my heart, keep my heart firm upon the religion. Oh Allah, the changer of the hearts, change my heart firm upon your guidance and upon your obedience. So that man that you see that's off the rails, that you see on the street, know that, my brothers and sisters, that could be you. That could be me, that could be either one of us. You should always constantly seek steadfastness, always ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to correct your heart by making heaps of dua and by doing the actions of the righteous and of the pious. And in the Quran, as we mentioned about the heart, أَفَلَمْ يَسِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ فَتَكُونُ لَهُمْ قُلُوبٌ يَعْقِلُونَ بِهَا أو آذان يسمعون بها فإنها لا تعمى الأبصار ولكن تعمى القلوب. So some of the punishments that the previous nations faced was that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blackened their heart and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hardened their hearts. Right? Because they wouldn't ponder. Pondering comes from the heart. Pondering in the Quran and thinking as well, it starts off from the heart, then it goes to the mind. Right? It never hit them. Right? لهم قلوب يعقلون بها أو آذان يسمعون بها فإنها لا تعمى الأبصار. Rather, the eyes are not blind, but the heart is blind. And this is a type of uquba, a type of punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When a person's heart is blind, when a person is not moved by the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when a person does not cry whenever he recites the Quran, and whenever these verses of Jahannam and Adhab al-Qabr does not hit him, right? فَإِن لَمْ تَبْكُوا فَتَبَاكُوا. As the Prophet ﷺ used to say, if you can't cry, then at least make yourself cry. Naam.
حركاتهم وهمومهم وعزومهم لله لا للخلق والشيطان.
The next station, حركاتهم, their movements, وهمومهم, their concern is firm, وعزومهم, and their resolution. So their movements and their concern and their resolutions lillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala are all for the sake of Allah. La lil khalqi wa shaytani. La lil khalqi wa shaytani. Not for the creation and not for the shaitan. So whatever you do, again, we come to the concept of al-ikhlas. Whatever you do, be it like small or big, always rectify your intention and do it solely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right, not for the creation and not for the shaitan. Certainly not for the shaitan. All right. رُبَّ عَمَلٍ كَثِيرٍ يُصَغِّرُهُ النِّيَّةِ وَرُبَّ عَمَلٍ قَلِيلٍ تُعَظِّمْهُ النِّيَّةِ. Some of the Salaf, they used to say, perhaps an action that is small, right, it sort of glorifies the intention. All right. The reward of that is big because of the intention. And perhaps a greater action, right, there's no reward. The reward of that is small. What does that mean? We might come together with the aim of building a masjid, 10-fold of this, right? But we all have the wrong intention. Rather, we're doing it for fame. Rather, we're doing it for other purposes. We're not doing it for Allah. And this is a big project. And perhaps we come together to build something half or quarter of the size or a portion of the size of this masjid. And we've done it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And perhaps that deed is greater, solely because it is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So always look at it like that. Do not belittle the intention. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَا نَوَى. It's the famous hadith of Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, that all actions are judged by their intention. And a person will have only that which they intended. Only that which you intended. إِنَّمَا يُحْشَرُ النَّاسُ عَلَى نِيَّاتِهِمْ. People will be gathered on the Day of Judgment upon the things that they intended. And we've explained this last week, that if you intend to do a good deed, from the rahmah of the Sharia, you intend to do a good deed, but you don't do that good deed, right? You forget about it, you sleep, you will get the reward of that good deed. And if you go ahead with that good deed and then you do it, the reward of that is how much? Tenfolds. وَالْحَسَنَةُ بِعَشْرِ أَمْثَالِهَا. And then if you intend to do a bad deed, and then you leave it off, you get one reward. You leave off that bad deed, whatever it is. And you intend to do a bad deed, and then you go ahead with that bad deed, then you get one sin, right? And not 10. So this again shows us the mercy of Allah Azza wa Jal. The mercy of Allah Azza wa Jal. Now, again, their movements, their concern, and their resolution. So we speak about the concept of the dunya. All right? Their movements, their concern, and their resolutions are all for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Quran and the Sunnah and Islam is not telling you to be broke. Rather, have goals and aspirations that are dunyawi, that are related to the dunya. All right? But don't make these goals your main concern, and don't let these goals busy you from the akhirah. The Messenger ﷺ, he says in a hadith, من كانت الدنيا همه فرق الله عليه أمره وجعل فقره بين عينيه. The one that the dunya is his main concern. The dunya is his main concern, the world. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts poverty right before his eyes. And he disorganizes his affairs, يعني his affairs in the akhirah. And the world does not come to him except that what is decreed for him. This person that makes the dunya his main goal, yes, he's rich. Yes, he may have plenty of cars and assets and all these investments. But still he feels like a poor person. Because Allah Azza wa Jal has made the dunya, He has made the dunya His main concern. And Allah Azza wa Jal has punished him because of that. You may think that people are rich and those people are living in a happy state. No, wallahi, my brothers, Muslims and non-Muslims alike. People that are rich and they make their dunya their main concern, these people are the most depressed people. And again, we're not telling you be broke your whole life, be rich. A lot of the companions, they were rich. Not a lot of them, but a lot from the Meccan times. The Meccan companions, a lot of them were rich. A lot of them had experience in trade. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, Abdurrahman ibn Auf, Abdullah ibn Zubayr. They were rich companions. But at the same time, as some of the scholars explained in their books, they saw this money as wealth that they will be responsible for on the Day of Judgment. They will be questioned on this wealth. All right? They saw this wealth as something that something that is meaningless. The Ansar, some of them were rich companions. All right? They were farmers, whereas the Meccans, they were more traders. And yes, there were many poor companions. All right? Majority of them were poor. But at the same time, the rich ones as well, they made it to the akhirah. A lot of them were promised paradise. Right? They used to give for the sake of Allah. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, the one that used to free slaves, the one that used to fast. Right? Apart from, away from Ramadan, aside from Ramadan. He used to always give charity. He used to always give for the sake of Allah. He will be at the forefront and no one can beat him. And he was still a wealthy companion. Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu, the Messenger made dua for him. Allahumma akthir amwalahu. Allahumma akthir amwal. Allahumma barik lahu fi amwalihi. Right? Or kama qala alayhi salatu wasalam. Oh Allah, bless. Oh Allah, increase his wealth. Oh Allah, bless him with many children. And it was said that his offsprings reached about 100. His offsprings. All right? His children and the children that his children had, his grandkids, about 100. As for the other person, وَمَنْ كَانَتِ الْآخِرَةِ نِيَّتَهُ, the one that makes the hereafter his goal or his main aspiration, his intention, Allah Azza wa Jal جَمَعَ اللَّهُ لَهُ أَمْرَهُ وَجَعَلَ غِنَاهُ فِي قَلْبِهِ وَأَتَتْهُ الدُّنْيَا وَهِيَ رَاغِمَةٌ. All right, listen to this beautiful hadith. Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam All right? Who never used to speak out of his desires. Who's the most truthful? As-Sadiq wal-Masduq. Right? He says, whoever makes the hereafter his goal, Allah makes his heart rich. Allah enriches his heart. And we need that heart enrichment, all of us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala organizes his affairs. His affairs for the akhirah are already organized. And the world comes to him whether he wants it or not. The world, the dunya, it comes to him whether he wants it or not. وَأَتَتْهُ الدُّنْيَا وَهِيَ رَاغِمَةٌ. This is the opposite side. Always have the akhirah at the back of your mind. Wake up every morning and tell yourself that I have a purpose in this life. And my purpose is to serve Allah Azza wa Jal. My purpose is to make it to Jannah. Make it to Jannah or die trying. Right? They say get rich or die trying. But rather make it to Jannah or die trying. Right? Make that your main goal. And make your goal also to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Never to please the shaitan or the creation. No. And this is the last line. تفضل أخي.
نعم الرفيق لطالب السبل التي تفضي إلى الخيرات والإحسان.
He says, the author, he finishes off with the last station. نعم الرفيق لطالب السبل التي تفضي إلى الخيرات والإحسان. Excellent and blessed is the companion who is seeking the path that leads towards khairat and goodness, wal ihsan and righteousness. All right? What better companion to have a companion, a friend, or someone that's around you, rafiq, all right, somebody that you're constantly with, to lead you to a righteous path. Then we come to the concept of julasa al-khair, or ashab al-khair, having good friends around you, good companionship. And this is very important. And this one we need to elaborate upon, right? Having good companionship. The Messenger ﷺ was always around the best of the best companions, the four rightly guided, right? Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, he's the best of companion. Then comes Umar ibn Khattab, he's the second best. Then comes Uthman bin Affan, he's the third best. And then comes Ali ibn Abi Talib, and he's the fourth best. He was constantly around these people. And others as well. Bilal ibn Rabah, Suhaib, Ar-Rumi, Anas ibn Malik. All of these companions, they were great people, and they were named companions because of their righteousness. So you want to surround yourself with good companions. Right? Al-mar'u ala dini khalilihi, falyanzur ahadukum man yukhalil. The famous hadith, the Prophet ﷺ tells us and mentions that a person is upon the religion of his friend. So look towards whom you befriend. Look towards whom you befriend. All right? And the opposite is true. عن المرء لا تسأل وسل عن قرينه فكل قرين بالمقارن يقتدي. This is not a hadith, but this is a statement of a companion. And some of the companions, they say, if there was something close to a hadith, this statement will be a hadith. This is a statement from a famous companion by, his name is Ibn Adi. He says, a person do not, like, you know how they say, show me who you are, show me who your friends are, I'll show you who you are. This is what the statement is. Right? If you want to look at a person, just look at his friends, his surroundings. فَكُلُّ قَرِينٍ بِالْمُقَارِنِ يَقْتَدِي. Every friend is like, every friend is alike. Every friend of a friend, all the friends are alike. If this friend likes this color, he likes that color. If this friend likes to go to the masjid, then he's going to be upon the religion of his friend. But nowadays, we say something different. We say, if you want to know who this person is, then look at his social media status. Look at what he posts. Look at his Facebook. Facebook is a bit older for you guys, maybe the older generation, but Snapchat or TikTok or Instagram, all these other apps that are coming out. I can't even keep up. Right? If you want to look at a person, look at what they post, look at what they follow, and look at who follows them. Right? Look at what they share. You don't even need to go to their friends. You just go to their social media page. And that is a hint for the brothers. All right? If you're looking for a sister, all right? Obviously, if her page is private, then her page is private, right? There's not much you can do. But if her page is public, then look at what she does. And the same with the sisters as well. If you're looking For a good brother, look at his social media. Most of the brothers have their social media open. Right? They want people to see them. If his social media if he's about posting good stuff and reminders, then, right, this could be a chance. But if he's the opposite and always posting garbage, music, this, that, all right, then you're like, all right, cool. This is the kind of person he is. Look at their social media, that's it. Now, and then he says, نعم الرفيق لطالب العلم لطالب السبل التي تفضي إلى الخيرات والإحسان. How excellent is a companion is the one described above, having all those traits, all those stations that we mentioned, for the seeker of the paths which led to goodness and benevolence. All right, then again, we need to speak about peer pressure. We need to speak about peer pressure. Peer pressure is real, my brothers and sisters. All right, peer pressure led some people misguided away from the religion. For example, the uncle of Abu Talib. Abu Talib was the uncle of the Messenger ﷺ, and he died upon kufr, he died upon shirk, and he was peer pressured. If you look at his story, you look at the seerah, we go back to it, we say that on his deathbed, the Messenger ﷺ is begging him, right? He's pressuring, he's encouraging him, right? Because he loved him so much. And Abu Talib as well loved his nephew. He used to protect him, he used to look out for him. He said, say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, I'll be a witness for you on the day of judgment. And then who's around him? Abu Sufyan, Sadat al-Quraysh. Abu Sufyan, radiallahu anhu, embraced Islam afterwards. But at that time he was a mushrik. And those around him, the leaders of Quraysh, they will say to him, Ya Abu Talib, atarghabu an millati Abdul Muttalib. Do you not desire, are you going to betray the religion of Abdul Muttalib, which is their forefathers, which their tribe goes back to? And that religion was clearly worshipping idols. And after that, he said, Abu Talib, he said, Ana ala millati Abdul Muttalib, I am on the religion of my forefathers, and he died upon this. And the Messenger ﷺ was very saddened, he was very disappointed. He loved for his uncle. We all love khair for all our families, and we want khair for those around us as well, the non-Muslims. But we need to understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that guides, and He guides whomever He wishes. And then the verse in Surah Qasas, the ending of Surah Qasas, Allah Azza wa Jal brought down, إِنَّكَ لَا تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ. O Muhammad, you do not guide to whom you wish. You do not guide whom you love, but rather Allah is the one that guides. You just do your job, portray the message, right? بَلِّغْ مَا أُنزِلْ. All right? Portray the message, that's it. That's all you have to do, and your responsibility is done. Or at least show your akhlaq, show your Islam in you, right? Like the beard, like, mashallah, a lot of the brothers upon the sunnah, having the thobes above their ankles, wearing thobes, coming to the masjid, right? Parking correctly, walking correctly, right? Not disturbing the neighbors. All of these acts are basic akhlaq that we all should have. And perhaps someone someone can say, look at these people, mashallah, the way they dress clean, they're perfumed, they come to the masjid, and they all sit orderly and they listen attentively. What are they doing? Right? Even praying in a park. Right? A brother used to tell me that whenever he prays in the park, people will come by him and they will say, what are you doing? They will think that he's doing yoga. And then he will educate them. This is not yoga, this is salah. This is how we pray to Allah Azza wa Jal. People, you remembering Allah Azza wa Jal, and we remember Allah Azza wa Jal every few hours. Praying Fajr, praying Dhuhr, a few hours after that praying Asr, a few hours after that praying Maghrib, and then praying Isha. All right? You might do that in the outside, away from the footpaths, obviously, not blocking people. And then someone might be interested, and then you can educate them about Islam. You can start by saying, can I give you a copy of the Quran, or at least refer them to the masjid, and that's it. Right? It is better for a person to come to Islam through you than you having a red camel, as the hadith says. A red camel is something very rare. All right? It is better than any, at that time, Prophet's time, it was better than any wealth. It was something very rare. All right? And then, now I'm going back to companionship. Right? Al-julasa al-khair, ashab al-khair. You always want to be around good people. You always want to be around good brothers. And on the day of judgment, perhaps these good brothers will be an intercessor for you into paradise. Perhaps these good brothers will be an intercessor for you in paradise. Ya laytani lam attakhid fulanan khalila. Right? Or the opposite. On the day of judgment, one would say, oh, how I wish I did not take so and so as a friend. لَقَدْ أَضَلَّنِي عَنِ الذِّكْرِ وَالذِّكْرُ هُنَا الْقُرْآنِ. He has swayed me away from the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The friend that used to say, come to the madrasa, let's go to the mosque, let's go to Duksi, let's go and read some Quran, let's go and learn some Quran. Whereas the other one, the opposite friend, the one that used to tell you, let's go smoke some shisha, let's go to the beach, all right, let's go watch a soccer game. Instead, لَقَدْ أَضَلَّنِي عَنِ الذِّكْرِ. And this is one of the regrets in the afterlife. There are many, many regrets. And one of the regrets people will have is this as well. And then I want to mention another story of not a companion, but a man, subhanAllah, I've lost his name, but at the time of the companions, right? He died upon shirk. His name is not really that important, hence probably why I lost it. But this man had an alcohol problem. He had an alcohol problem, and the Quraysh around him, they knew this, right? And they will use this for him not to embrace Islam. This guy had an alcohol problem. When he was sober, he would wish for Islam. He was in Medina, and the Muslims were, he was in Mecca, and the Muslims were in Medina. Right? And this is that period where Mecca was not conquered and not taken back. So he wanted to go to the Prophet ﷺ and embrace Islam. So they told him, Ya Fulan, oh this person, do you know that the Prophet ﷺ is very strict? Yani he abides by the book of Allah, the law, the Sharia, right? Meaning that you can't do zina, you can't cheat, you have to treat women correctly, you have to treat your neighbors correctly, right? All of this. And he said, women, what is it with me? I'm an old man. And he was an old man. And he said, I don't really cheat. So they knew this guy had an alcohol problem. So they said to him, did you know that Muhammad ﷺ prohibits alcohol? And the one that drinks alcohol and is found drinking alcohol will be lashed. And this is in the Sharia. Then he said, he thought about it. And he said, what I'm going to do, and look at this, look at the way shaitan works and the way peer pressure. He said, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to drink this year, and then next year, I'm going to embrace Islam. I'm going to drink myself as much as I can, and then come next year, I'm going to go to Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I'm going to go to Medina, and I'm going to announce my Islam. So what happened? He drank, until he died upon shirk, because the next year wasn't decreed for him. All right? He died upon this state, due to peer pressure, due to his shahawat, obviously his desires and temptations of alcohol. So it's very important that you always, if you have a problem or addiction and your friends know about it, if they're not helping you with this addiction and this problem, then find other friends and seek other means to help. Right? If this friend is encouraging you or is using your desires against you, then turn away from this friend. Fine, get help. Whatever addiction it is that you have, right? Whatever problem that you have that is stopping you from the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, deal with it right now, before it's too late. Right? Before it is too late. Why? Al-a'mar, a'maru ummati, بين الستين والسبعين. Or كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. He says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that the age that my ummah will live until is between 60 and 70. وَقَلِيلٌ مَنْ يَجُوزُ ذَلِكَ. And maybe a few will go over. A few will go over. Right? At the Prophet ﷺ's time, of course. Right? A few were over the age of 80. A lot of the companions, even the generations that came after that, they died young. They fought in battles, 45, 20, 24. They were leaders at the age of 15, and they died young. Al-Imam al-Nawawi, rahimahullah, he died very young. Right? So they say at the age of 45. And look at his books. We're still reading until today. After 700 years, we're reading and going over Al-Imam al-Nawawi's collections of book. Right? Simply because of what they put forth. So nobody is guaranteed 50 years, in other words. Nobody is guaranteed next year. Right? Nobody is guaranteed tomorrow. So seek repentance in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala today. Right? Drop your friends. If your friends are bad or if your friends are the main problem. be around good people, be around good brothers. A lot of people, they're too scared. Oh, I'm going to lose this friend. Especially young shabab brothers, young brothers. I'm going to lose this friend, I can't lose him. There's how many people on this earth? 1.2 Muslims, 1.2 billion Muslims. 7 billion people on this earth. You can find other people. So, in saying this, good companionship is very important. The dunya, not making the dunya our main aim, as the last few lines of poetry. We mentioned the story of Abu Talib, peer pressure, and that man, whatever his name is, if you want to ask me later, I'll probably remember his name, that died upon shirk. We've mentioned ihsan, the station of ihsan, how it is the highest station a believer, a mu'min can be. Naam. And the author, he ends the book by saying, نعم الرفيق لطالب السبل التي تفضي إلى الخيرات والإحسان. How excellent is a companion as the one so described above for the seeker of the paths which led to goodness and benevolence. The author ends there, and this is the ending of the book. And Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. Anything that we've said that was correct, it was from the success of Allah Azza wa Jal. Anything that we've said that was incorrect, Allah Azza wa Jal and His Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam are free from it. We end the book by praising Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and we end this book by encouraging the brothers to go over it again. For the brothers that have taken notes, these 18 lines of poetry, very easy to remember, very basic. It's also in English. Read it, learn it, teach it, and memorize it. Or explain 15? No. So we finished the book right now, and then we're just going to re-explain the book, some lines. So line number 15.
بالله دعوات الخلائق كلها خوفا على الإيمان من نقصان.
بالله دعوات الخلائق كلها خوفا على الإيمان من نقصان. So this line is interconnected with the line before. All right? Verily it is for Allah and with His aid that I call the creation. So when you're making da'wah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you call upon making da'wah, preaching and teaching for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and also seeking His assistance in all of our affairs. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. Unto you we believe, O Allah, and unto you we seek assistance. You need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's assistance in all affairs. That I call the creation and the gatherings of people, all of them, out of fear of decrease of iman. خوفا على الإيمان من النقصان. خوفا على الإيمان من النقصان. So a lot of people, when they study and they learn the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, some of them have different reasons of studying. Some people want to study just to uplift the ignorance, right? Raf'ul jahl. But the main cause of studying the religion is Raf'ul jahl, uplifting yourself from ignorance, an ghayr. And this is the statement of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. He would say, we study, we learn to uplift the ignorance from ourselves, to educate ourselves, and to educate others. And to educate others. All right? All of them to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of fear of decrease of iman. And once you study and you lose what you study, then your iman decreases. Your iman decreases. If you don't go over it, one of the ways of seeking knowledge and keeping that knowledge is that you teach it, you act upon it, and then you teach it. خوفا على الإيمان من النقصان. Out of fear of the decrease of iman. So in other words, if we want our iman up, then we should learn the religion of Allah Azza wa Jal, the book of Allah, the words and the actions and statements of the Messenger alayhi salam. Sahihain, Sahih al-Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, right? And this is the most authentic book after the book of Allah. And then the other relevant studies to increase our iman and to teach and to preach. Wallahu alam, and Allah knows best. Inshallah ta'ala, we've done with the book. If there are any other explanations that we need to do or any questions, inshallah we'll give it the next 10 minutes and then we'll wrap up. No, okay. No. So that's a very good question. Everyone is judged and rewarded by his intention. All right? So that man that passed away upon shirk, he wanted to embrace Islam. Perhaps he had the intention. All right? But at the same time, Allah Azza wa Jalla did not write it for him. Okay? So entering Islam, and the scholars agree, and this is in all four madhabs, and this is in bil ijma', by consensus. The scholars, they agree that entering Islam is a means of Jannah. All right? Entering Islam is a means of opening the keys to Jannah. Of course, there are many gates to Jannah. So this man here, he died upon shirk. He died upon disbelief. But rather, he had the intention. Allah Azza wa Jalla did not open his heart. Allah Azza wa Jalla perhaps opened his heart, but did not allow him to succeed in the next steps. So for this kind of incident, he will not be judged by his intention. Rather, he will be judged by how he died upon. How he died upon. So the intention goes for the rewards, the deeds, the amal, the actions. So if this man embraced Islam, then he will be given Jannah. But rather, he died upon Islam, and he will be judged upon what he died upon. Wallahu alam. And Allah knows best. Jazakallah khair. طيب جزاك الله خير my brothers. نعم. نعم. With the, yeah, non-practicing brothers. Now, this is, subhanAllah, this is a musibah nowadays as well. Yani, we have many young brothers who, yani, some of them perhaps are around non-Muslims who want to enter Islam. All right? But at the same time, those young brothers around him who are Muslim are not practicing. So how hard do you push this person? All right? On the other side. So this one, we can look at it in different ways. Right? You want to, at the end of the day, you don't want to push this person, but rather you want to remind him, you want to encourage him. You want to encourage him, and then you do your part as well. Play your part, and then leave it to Allah Azza wa Jal. Because those people around him who are not practicing, who are Muslims, they will be judged on the Day of Judgment. Right? They will be judged. And on the Day of Judgment, if this person, la qadar Allah, Allah does not decree, dies upon his state as a non-Muslim, then he will be on the Day of Judgment at the same time running after these people and say, why did you not push me more? Why did you not encourage me more? So do not be that person. Right? If this person is around you a lot, then encourage him into Islam. But if he's not around you, then you do your part as well. Encourage him and encourage him, send him reminders constantly. Perhaps give him a copy of the Quran. This works a lot. Tell him about the beauty of Islam, and tell him about these brothers around him, how it might affect his raghbah, his desire into becoming Muslim. Right? That's the most that you can do, and leave the rest to Allah Azza wa Jal. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. No. For the youth that are kind of away from the masajid and not attached, one way, this is from my opinion, from what I've seen, traveling and whatnot, and looking at brothers overseas and the way they do it, places like Toronto and Canada and the UK, they bring these brothers in through different activities, sports, games, and they do this constantly throughout. Right? They do it. This is one way of getting brothers attached into the masjid. In terms of teaching them, you always want to start off with teaching al-Iman, teaching them Aqidah. Because the companions, they used to say, كُنَّا نَتَعَلَّمُ الْإِيمَانِ قَبْلَ الْقُرْآنِ. Right? فتعلمنا الإيمان ثم القرآن. All along those lines. They used to say that we used to learn Iman first before the Quran, the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because one can read the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a Muslim but not understand anything. Right? It would just be mere words. But when you study Aqidah, because Aqidah is your core belief. Aqidah is your salvation to the Akhirah. That is what it is. And Aqidah is what you believe in firmly, that your heart sets upon, and that you take as a doctrine and a religion. Right? And the Aqidah of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah is based upon the 6 pillars of Iman. أن تؤمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله وآخره. All the way up until there. Believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His angels and His books and His messengers and the last day and the decree, that which is good and that which is evil. This is something that we want to instill in them. Right? The natural fitrah. The fitrah, and the fitrah is the religion. You want to instill in them the basics. Build an asas, build a structure before teaching anything else. That's why the books of fiqh, the scholars have gathered, and the scholars have done a great job. Studying the religion, Arkanul Islam, it starts off with Aqidah. Right? The Shahada, knowing Allah Azza wa Jal, that He's one. Right? And then believing in the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam. Right? That is what Aqidah is. Shahada, that is what Arkanul Islam is based upon. Arkanul Islam, belief in Allah, belief in His Messenger. That is what Aqidah is, and that should be the first. As for Salah and Zakah and Sawm and Hajj, that is what fiqh is. Right? So the scholars, before, in the early times, fiqh and Aqidah was one subject. Because it was so vast and fiqh was so big, then they separated these 2 subjects. Right? So as a basic guide, they would start off with Aqidah, teaching people Tawheed, Arkanul Iman, Allah Azza wa Jal, about His beautiful attributes, about His beautiful names and perfect attributes, and then teaching people about the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, his role, his lineage, who he is, his seerah, and then they will go on and teach about Salah. Because you need to know who you're worshipping before praying Salah. You need to know why you're worshipping Allah Azza wa Jal. And this is all in Aqidah. Right? And this is the basics. This is what you want to start off with, and then move on to the different topics. And the best way to drag the youth in is by doing short lectures, short reminders. One thing you don't want to do is you never want to drag it, and you never want to keep it long. Because some of these guys are newly practicing. Some of these guys haven't been to the masjid as much. They haven't prayed as much in their life. So you're not going to expect them to listen to a whole lecture like this for 45 minutes. You're not going to expect them to go through 18 lines of poetry. So you start them off with the basic, coming to the masjid, giving them reminders, right? Telling them about the effects of sins, and reminding them of the akhirah. Wallahu alam, and Allah knows best. When you're giving a lecture and you mention a weak hadith, do you have to inform the people that it is a weak hadith? Look, if it's based on halal and haram, yes, of course. If it's based on halal and haram, you have to mention that it is a weak hadith. In fact, if it's a weak hadith and it's a haram halal issue, then it shouldn't be taken. But if it's more of an encouragement, fadail a'mal, scholars they say, deeds, like virtuous deeds, like for example, qiyam al-layl, and giving charity. If it's a weak hadith, all right, then you can mention it, then you can use it. Because some hadith are weak, but the meaning is correct. Some hadith are weak, and the meaning is correct. Wallahu alam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is best. Yeah, we'll take one last question, inshallah. Yeah. Oh, subhanAllah, that's a tough one. Somebody who accepted Islam and then went back to their old ways. So, Allah alam, it's due to parents and stuff. And this, subhanAllah, happens again to many young Muslims. many young reverts. So how can we tackle this? At the same time, we have to be there to support them and aid them in every way that we can. All right? If it's financial, if it's housing, as much as we can, we have to support them. That's one way we can sort of fight it. And we have to, at the same time, perhaps this person had a doubt, Allahu Alam. Perhaps this person had other things, because some people, they see Islam as a hobby. Allah, I've seen this. Right? They embrace Islam. We've seen it with celebrities. They embrace Islam, and then after a few years, they fall off and then go back to, this is another problem as well. So if we can tackle the problem in the beginning, due to parents and all this stuff, then we should help them as much as we can. All right? SubhanAllah, we had a problem, we had an incident with a sister who embraced Islam. She was in year 12, and then her mother found out, and they were Greek background, and the Greeks are very, they like to hold on to their traditions and their ways. Right? You can say that they're probably the few practicing Catholics or Christians, whatever they are. So the mother found out, and the mother said, I don't want this. You're going to stop Islam. And then eventually when she would come home, she would put away her hijab. All right? If she can work around it, this brother can work around it and work with his mum, because at the same time, you don't want to be disobedient to your parents. Right? Eventually, you want to bring them into Islam. You want to tell them about the beauty of Islam. Perhaps they had a lot of questions about Islam that was unanswered. And recently, subhanAllah, this same sister, her mother said, I'm going to stab myself. I'm going to get a knife and I want to stab myself if you don't leave this. Then perhaps this could be a mental issue with the mother. Or the mother just having a bit of pride and arrogance. All right? And subhanAllah, it's still ongoing. So if this kind of happens as well, and this sister has plans to move, and she has plans to marry, our brother, mashallah, asked for her hand, and our brother actually is gonna marry her soon as well. And the funny thing is the father is okay. The father's like, look, it's a free country, you can believe whatever you want to believe in. The brother doesn't really care. The main problem is the mum. All right, so we looked at different ways and advised her of different ways of getting around this. And eventually, if this mother is saying, I'm going to stab myself, and there's not much we can do, right? It's just, she'll be in trouble herself. Like, this person is suicidal. So all like this, it's still ongoing, and we hope khair for the sister. We hope Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps her steadfast. We hope Allah Azza wa Jal protects the newly reverts from all types of doubts and fitna. So, wallahi, work around it. That's something I can suggest. Wallahu alam, and Allah is best. Jazakumullah khairan, my brothers. No. One more question and then we'll finish. No. No. The most beneficial thing to study at the moment. Look, everyone's goals and aspirations in terms of studying is different. Right? You look at your individual needs or your individual, your individual self, what you want to study and what you want to achieve. Because studying the religion is vast. And we have scholars that, alhamdulillah, have studied the religion for 30, 40, 50 years, majority of their lives. And they're still studying. So you look at the basic area, the scholars, they will divide ilm into different parts. All right? Ilm, that is an individual obligation, and then ilm, that is a communal obligation. All right? Fardu ayn and fardu kifaya. You look at what is needed for yourself for you to enter paradise. For you to enter paradise, you need to know Allah Azza wa Jal. You need to believe in Allah. You need to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as one, and you need to believe in the Prophet ﷺ as his last messenger. So they will start studying with that. Like I've mentioned to the brother before, start by studying small books in creed, small creed books in Aqidah. And then when you have a good grasp of that, you go into studying fiqh books. All right? Then there's Aqidah, and then there's Tahara, how to pray. That is the second most important thing. Because you need to know how to pray for your salah to be corrected. You need to know how to make wudu, what invalidates wudu. You need to know the pillars of Islam, salah. All right? You need to know what nullifies the salah. You need to know about ghusl and janaba and impurity, and what's impure, what's not impure. Then you can go into other matters. Right? If you look at the chapters of fiqh, right, you get one fiqh book, for example. Every fiqh book will start off with Kitab al-Tahara, the book of purification, the type of water, anwa' al-miyah, what water you can use to make wudu. Right? And then it goes on to Kitab al-Salah, right? The different type of prayers, Eid prayer, Jum'ah prayer. And then it goes on to Kitab al-Siyam, right? How to fast, just like the 5 pillars of Islam. And then it goes on to Kitab al-Hajj. And then it goes on to Kitab al-Mu'amalat, yani business and trade. And then it goes on to Kitab al-Nikah, marriage. If you're a person that wants to get married, it's advised and recommended for you to study about marriage, the fiqh of marriage, right? You need to know what is required for you to marry a person, the rights that you have to give to this individual, the sister, and the sister needs to know the rights of her husband. You need to know when to approach your wife, right? And you need to know if when the time to divorce your wife, right? And then they go into, the scholars go into Kitab al-Janaiz, right? How to pray funeral prayer. Then they go into Kitab al-Jihad. Kitab al-Jihad is usually the last. Why? Because we don't want any ordinary person speaking about jihad matters when that person hasn't studied the 4 or 5 chapters before. And that is the reason why the scholars have put that last. So that is a step-by-step guide. And in the beginning, you want to go to your local masajid, and any book that the imam or the sheikh is teaching, you want to take part of. In the very beginning. In the very beginning, you also want to learn the Arabic language. The Arabic language is the most important tool for your religion. The Arabic language, as well as the Quran. When you're younger, it's advised to learn the Quran only. When you're younger, and when I mean younger, I mean the age of some of these young brothers here. All right? Age of 12, age of 10, 5. All you want to do is just read, and memorize. It's not all about understanding. It's about memorizing here. When they get to an age of tamyiz and they're able to understand, then you pour some creedal matters in them. Speak about the oneness of Allah Azza wa Jal. You speak about the power of Allah Azza wa Jal, how Allah Azza wa Jal is the creator, how Allah Azza wa Jal is Ar-Razaq, the provider. And then as you get older, you know more in understanding. Memorization and understanding is just as important. You want to balance. In this country, schools and universities, it's all about understanding. In the East, in places like Saudi and Egypt, it's all about memorization. Right? Understanding is minimum. Right? So you want to balance both. Understand and memorize. You want to understand the basics, then go into intermediate, then go into advanced books. Brother Kifah asked me early on, what books of creed should we study in the beginning? The books of creed, the scholars generally advise small books of creed. Qawa'id al-Arba'ah, Usul al-Thalatha. This is very small, you can memorize. Hadith Jibril, alayhi salam. Second hadith in Arba'un Nawawi. Memorize it, go over it. That goes through every single thing about the creed of a Muslim. Then you want to go into a bit more advanced books. Intermediate. You're a basic, and you go into the intermediate books. Intermediate books, Al-Aqidah al-Wasitiyah. This is intermediate. Lamiyah by Ibn Taymiyyah, short poetry on Aqidah as well. Ha'iyah. All right, these are all intermediate books. And then when you've got a good grasp of that, understanding, you've studied under a sheikh or a ustaz, and you go over a lot of matters, creedal matters, then you go into advanced books. Advanced books, I'm talking about big books that are mainly in Arabic, that are hard to find in English. Kitab al-Tawheed. All right, Kitab al-Tawheed is more intermediate, sorry. Advanced, I'm talking about Aqidah al-Tahawiyah. Aqidah al-Tahawiyah is very advanced. And then you have different shuruhat, different explanations. And that, you definitely want to sit with the teacher, and you want to sit with the sheikh or ustaz, whether it's online or whether it's you traveling. That's in terms of Aqidah. In terms of fiqh, which is the second most important aspect. In the beginning, you can study from any madhab. From any madhab. Whatever madhab your local imam follows, you can study. Okay, if your local imam is going by directly from the hadith, right? Fiqh al-Sunnah, hadith books, Umdatul Ahkam. Directly from hadith books, and this is not advised in the beginning, rather you want to go through a madhab. Because the madhab gives you, again, a beginning, an intermediate, and advance. Say for example, the Hanbali madhab. or the Shafi'i madhab. Those two I've studied. So the Shafi'i madhab, you have books like Safinatun Najah. Safinatun Najah, the ship of salvation, that's what it's called. It goes through the basic of fiqh. How to pray, type of water, how to make wudu. It doesn't go into detail. And then you have books like Abu Shuja', Umdatu Salik, that's more intermediate. This one, it has more matters, all right, different matters, different fiqh issues, all right, same topics, but a bit more advanced. And then you have the intermediate, the very advanced, which is like Al-Majmu' by Imam al-Nawawi. All right, this is very, very advanced. And this one, if you have a good grasp, then you're enough to become a mufti. If you've studied it under a sheikh, all right. Minhaj, it's called Minhaj al-Sunnah by Imam al-Nawawi, or Al-Minhaj. All right, in Somalia, places like Eastern Africa, they'll say, Man hafidh al-Minhaj faqad haj. Meaning that the one that has memorized Minhaj and went through it and studied it, that person has basically clocked the Shafi'i fiqh, and he's enough to give a fatwa. In the Hanbali fiqh, you have different primers as well. Different primers. What was the book, the Hanbali book? You have basic Hanbali books, right? Manhaj al-Salikin. Then you have intermediate, then you have advanced, Rawd al-Murbi'ah. This is more advanced, and this they teach in universities over the space of 4 years and 8 semesters. The book is 8 volumes, and each volume they teach, and that is very advanced, and that is taught by professors and mashaykhs. Wallahu alam, and Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. وجزاكم الله خيرا وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We'll finish the book. This will be our last lesson, inshallah ta'ala, until we resume a new book or a new lesson after the new year, بإذن الله. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.